What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to an update regarding my M2 Competition. But first off, let me tell you about today's sponsor and how their product can help you unlock a hidden function of the BMW M2 Competition. The company is called Carly and they produce an app for your phone and an adapter for your car. And these things can help you in a couple of ways. First off, you'll be able to diagnose your car directly without taking it to a shop and paying a large amount of money for what is essentially a 5-minute job. Using this diagnostics tool, you'll be able to find out what these warning lights that sometimes pop up on your dash actually mean. And second of all is coding. If you're a BMW M2 owner, I can tell you that the Carly adapter and app can actually help you get rid of the fake sound that's being pumped through your speakers of your M car. Not only that, but you can temporarily open the valves of your exhaust for a more richer sound, so to speak. Now let me quickly show you how to diagnose your car real quick and then we'll get back to the video. First, you take the Carly adapter and you plug it in somewhere in the OBD port of the car underneath the steering wheel. You pop it in place over here, then you open the app on your phone and then you press connect. It's found it, it's now connecting to the car. You tap on the health tab and then press on check for issues. It's gonna take less than a minute. And then it's going to show you a list with the potential problems of your car. There you go, diagnosis completed. And now I get a checklist of everything that the app went through and what issues it found. In this particular car, my daily, an Audi A3, it found 5 issues. And all of those are connected to the fact that this car sometimes throws an error regarding the front collision sensor. Obviously you can clear the errors, but I don't want to do that in this case because this is a lease and I don't want to touch it. And that's it, a quick and easy way to diagnose your car. Much cheaper, trust me, than it is to go to an actual shop. Now you can find the links to these products right below the like button in the description of this video if you want to find out more information about them. Now let's get back to the video. In today's video, I want to go through the true cost of modifying my M2 Competition. I'm going to go through all the costs of every single mod I've put on my car, including what it costs to fit those mods to my car, because for some reason that seems to be a popular question on the channel. And finally, I'm going to touch a bit on the love/hate relationship I have with the M2 Competition. So without further ado, let's start talking about the mods. So first off, I want to mention that this video wasn't sponsored by the companies I'm going to mention from now on. I just want to tell you where I bought the parts from because there's a lot of questions regarding that topic as well. First off, what are the actual mods I've done to the M2 Competition? Interior wise, there's an Alcantara steering wheel with a carbon M performance trim and some really cool extended pedals. On the outside, I've changed the exhaust system, I've put a new suspension kit on the car, and of course some new wheels. So the interior, the steering wheel is not exactly new, it's just wrapped in Alcantara by a company in the UK called Royal Steering Wheels. And you can basically go to their website. I'll make sure to link them below the like button. You choose whatever you want them to do to your steering wheel, and basically that's that. The whole process is very quick. They're very easy to work with, Royal Steering Wheels, and the quality of their work is very, very good. So the cost, wrapping the steering wheel in Alcantara cost me £175 plus another 25 shipping. The M Performance carbon fiber steering wheel trim costs another 340 euros. You can get that from any BMW dealership. And finally, the extended paddles I bought from Autotechnic in the US for $270, including shipping, but I had to pay an extra $30 or $40 because I imported it from the US to Europe. The installation of all these parts didn't really cost me anything because I choose to do that myself, but here's a warning for you: if you don't feel very comfortable working with wires when you have to transfer all the parts from your old steering wheel to the new one, meaning the multifunction controls and all of that stuff, please try and do the work somewhere else, because you can easily damage a wire or a plug or anything like that, and then you're basically screwed. Next up, I've bought the exhaust. After months of research, literally, I ended up buying a Miltek equal-length exhaust system. And this is by far my favorite mod for the M2 Competition because, and I know this sounds very cliche, it completely transforms the way this car sounds, and I think it also adds quite a lot to its personality. I'm not going to go into too many details about the exhaust. I have a separate full review video which I'll link below the like button if you want to check it out. It includes plenty of sound clips and all of that, so make sure to check it out if you're in the market for something like that. I've bought the exhaust from ML Performance in the UK because they had a really good deal at that time, and because they were really professional about it. They under-promised and over-delivered, meaning initially they told me it would take about 6 weeks for the exhaust to arrive, and 4 weeks later I had it in my driveway. The cost was around £1,800, and because some folks decided Brexit was a good idea, I paid another $25 in import tax. But it's not really a big issue for me because when you buy something from outside of the UK, they sell it to you without the UK VAT, and you add your own country's VAT to it. So that meant around a 5% price increase for me, but again, they had a really good deal going at that time, and it made sense for me. Fitting this to the car was quite easily. It was a 1.5 hour job, if I remember correctly. I did that at a local shop, and it costs around 150 euros. Wheels, the controversial issue on my channel. The Japan Racing SL01 wheels I bought from Sweden, costing me around 900 euros. I've kept the original tires, so that was the full cost for the wheels. And finally, let's talk suspension. This is another one of those mods that I researched for before buying one for months. And ultimately, I decided to go with the B16 Bilsteins, but modified by Litchfield. Why did I do that? Well, first because I trust the feedback of a certain Mr. Chris Harris. And second of all, because I wanted a suspension system that would work on the road where I drive this car 90% or 95% of the time. Cost-wise, this was identical to the suspension. £1,800 for the actual kit and 400 Brexit taxes, basically. Fitting the Bilsteins to the car plus alignment and everything else that needed to be done cost me around 600 euros. So there you go, all of your questions about mods and costs of the mods I've answered for you guys. Now let's move on to the second portion of this video, my love-hate relationship with the M2 Competition. First off, some context. When I initially bought the M2 Competition, I knew for a fact that I wasn't gonna be happy with the car in its stock form, so to speak. It was basically too quiet for an M car, and the suspension was too soft when you needed it to be firm and too harsh when you wanted a more compliant ride, so to speak. Plus, I knew I wanted to make it more balanced, and not so tail happy all the time. The loudness part I definitely fixed with the help of the Miltek exhaust. Like I've said, my favorite mod I've done to the M2 Competition. It's quite close to stock in comfort mode with the valves closed, although the sound is a bit deeper than the original exhaust. And when you open up the valves and floor the throttle, it was stupidly loud, which I really enjoyed. The steering wheel mods, although a bit expensive for what they are, really added to the driving experience, the feel of the steering wheel and everything. And I also think they added a bit of style to the interior, and they matched very well with the other carbon bits and Alcantara bits on the door. So overall, I think that was worth it, for me at least. The suspension I also liked quite a bit. The Bilsteins are manually adjustable in height and for rebound and compression, of course. And quite surprisingly for me, even in their stiffest setting, they appear to be more comfortable than the stock suspension of the car. The car started handling bumps properly, not crashing every single time you hit a pothole, and it finally felt like a properly damped car. B-road blasting was improved as well. It felt to me like the car responded quicker to my inputs, and the body roll was significantly reduced. And yeah, to sum it all up, it felt like a more sophisticated car, for the lack of a better word, and I felt a bit more in control of what the car was doing all the time. So yeah, if you're looking for a suspension system for your M2 or M2 Competition, and you don't want a tracked-oriented solution, I highly suggest you have a proper look at these Litchfield Bilsteins. They're really, really good. Plus, Litchfield themselves offer spectacular support for their customers. I actually wanted some questions answered during the install process. I sent them an email, and literally 30 minutes after my email, they responded with all my questions answered perfectly. So yeah, there you go. I highly recommend Litchfield and their products as well. But here's where the love story with my M2 Competition starts to go south. As much as I love the Bilstein suspension, because of the way the M2 Competition and the M2 are built, when you're driving on bad roads, they tend to jump around quite a lot on all four wheels. And unfortunately, the new suspension system didn't fix this issue completely. It still happens, especially on some of the roads next to where I live. And like I've said, this is not a problem of the dampers, it's a problem that this car inherently has. But since I was driving the M2 on a daily basis, it kind of annoyed me. Then we come to the wheels, and probably my biggest problem with this car. The wheels I bought were 0.5 inches wider both in the front and in the rear, and the initial plan was to fit 255/35 tires at the front and 275/35 tires at the back. But unfortunately, stupid Paul over here didn't really know that 255/275, that combination is too much for a lowered M2. And that's because the fronts rubbed the fender liner on the inside, right, of the fender when turning left or right. And also, the back tires would scrub under heavy compression. Now, this happens because of two reasons. One is because the M2 and M2 Competition are fitted from factory with 245/265 width tires, but they are Michelin Pilot Super Sports star rated, meaning they're made specifically for BMW M cars. And that means they are narrower than regular Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires that are not star rated. I know it's a weird issue, but yeah, it is what it is. Star rated Michelins are a bit narrower than the regular Michelins. And the second reason for these rubbing issues is of course obvious, and that's because there's very little clearance between the tire and the fender liner of the car. So in the end I went with the wider wheels of course and with the stock tires. That's why the car had a look of boy racer. That's why the tires seemed so stretched, because the wheels are a bit wider. And yeah, that meant I had no more rubbing issues at the front, but the rear tires still rubbed on some occasions. And I know a lot of you are going to be telling me that you've seen some people on forums that have 295 30s on the rear, but I don't know, from my experience, I've borrowed a few wheels from other M2 owners, and for me it was the exact same thing. At some point rubbing did occur. And I know this might not seem like a big deal to you guys, especially the ones that have modified cars. I've spoken to a lot of people with modified cars and they're not really bothered by these issues. But to me, they're really annoying. And driving this car on a daily basis, the jumping around and the potential rubbing issues kind of really bugged me a lot, and I started to avoid driving the M2. I avoided it for short trips. I avoided the trips to Stockholm and back, around 30 kilometers, and quite a lot of times I didn't really even take the car out just for, for fun. And all of that simply because all I could think about when driving the car was, I wonder when the tire's gonna rub, or I hope I can avoid some bad roads so I don't jump around all the time. And yeah, I know this is all down to my OCD and the fact that the slightest noise inside the car makes me go crazy, but everything I've just mentioned so far made me not enjoy the car as much as before. Even my wife started to be annoyed by how annoyed I was with the M2. So yeah, I guess you know where this is going. Used car prices have gone crazy over the past 18 months, and I decided to list my car for sale for a silly price, if you ask me, to see what will happen. And believe it or not, the next day I sold it. I'm not going to reveal for how much I sold it, but it's safe to say I didn't really lose anything in the 1 year I drove this car. I did lose some money when I sold the mods separately, but that's a given. So what's next for me car-wise? Well, at this point, I have no idea, but of course you can count on me making a video about it when I decide. But that's been it for this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, my friends. Please give it a thumbs up if you have, and I hope you've learned something from it, or that knowing how much it costs to modify an M2 will put you off. Yeah, that's been it. I'll see you again next time.